I'm Mario Martinez Jr., CEO and founder of Vengreso, and we are the creators of flymessage.io, the free personal writing assistant and text expander application. On each episode of this podcast, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you grow your sales numbers at scale. So, get your pen and paper or iPad and keyboard and start taking notes as you're now listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Modern Selling Podcast. And I am stoked. You can't imagine how stoked I am because really, I've been spending a lot of time on how to really drill down into prospecting and talking about sales development, outbound, inbound. And I've got my friend with me who is the AVP of Sales Development from Seismic, Mr. Joey Vendel. Joey, my man, welcome to the show, bro.
Mario, great to be here with you today.
I'm excited to have you. We're going to talk all things sales development, and this is a big thing right now, especially with some of the real big challenges that are happening with outbound and inbound. And let me tell you, it's a slugfest right now. And of course, you know that better than I do, but we're challenged by this. So I think a lot of sales listeners listening in are going to really find some great value from what you're doing there at Seismic and with your entire team. And I'm excited to have you. But before we get into any content, do me a favor, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then I've got a very special question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I've spent 7.5 years in this field. I've gotten to see how sales development has evolved. I spent 2 years as a individual contributor in an SDR role, getting to kind of refine my practices around email, cold call, LinkedIn, generating high quality pipeline for our sales teams. And then the last 5 years, I've had the opportunity to manage a ton of amazing SDRs here at Seismic, several that have grown on to become great account executives, sales engineers, CSMs, you name it. A little bit about Seismic, we're the leading sales enablement technology. So anything from content, training, meetings, social selling, we're helping sellers provide better client experiences for their customers to drive faster deal cycles and higher win rates. Similar to the sales development industry, it's been amazing to see how sales enablement has evolved. I think, Mario, if my memory serves me right, you may have been one of the hosts at the Sales Enablement Society back in 2017 in Dallas, and that's actually the first time I got to know who you were when you were on stage leading. So obviously great to fast forward here and be on a podcast with you.
Well, you're right. I did 3 Sales Enablement Society conferences, and somehow, some way after the third, they fired me, and they didn't want me back. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding to all my Sales Enablement friends who are listening in, and don't go back and tell the Revenue Enablement Society that I said you fired me. Not true. I'm totally just kidding. I'm still actually very active in the organization, and they're doing really great things in terms of really building up sales enablement, sometimes called revenue enablement. You choose. I don't care what it's called, but enablement, period, end of discussion. Yeah, man. Yes, we did meet back then. And yes, I was hosting in 2017. I think I did 18, 19, or 19 and 20. I can't remember which ones it was, but it's been some good times there. So do me a favor, you told us a little bit about yourself and your background. And what I love about your story is the fact that you started out as an SDR, and you worked your way up, manager, director, and now VP over the group. And it's a great story to tell that you are actually in the trenches. So one of the big challenges that I see is, especially a lot of organizations, they put these leaders in charge of sales development. And first off, they're coming from marketing. They've never been on the phone. They've never called. They've never prospected. They've never done anything on LinkedIn in terms of social selling. And you put a business leader in charge of that who has no idea, and the individual sellers don't know that they can't go to you because you're not in the trenches. You've never been in the trenches. And that's what I love about those who've hit these levels of success, such as yourself, is you've been in the trenches. You know what to do. You actually can't, no one can say to you, oh, this doesn't work. No one can say to you, you don't know what you're talking about, because you do. And so that's what I love about your story, bro. I always ask this question of all my guests, and that is, tell us something nobody knows about you, even if they're looking at any or all of your social profiles. And Joey, we've known each other for a little while, but I'm looking for something juicy, bro. Give me something juicy.
All right, something you may not be able to pick up. What you can slightly pick it up, but my passion in this world is around sports. I unfortunately, though, I was born in Minnesota, which makes me a fan of all the Minnesota sports teams. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but we hold the record for the longest drought without a championship, 30 plus years and going. But I am someone that is watching every single game, basketball, football, baseball, hockey, you name it. It's what I spend a lot of my free time doing. It's also, though, where I've found a lot of parallels that I can translate to the field of sales, and a lot of practices that I've been able to, coach with my team, taking away situations from sports, relating it back to sales. I think there's a lot of really good parallels. So for those out there, if you want to get a hold of me, Minnesota sports is an easy way to do it, because I know everything there is about it.
So this will be the perfect way for you to determine if somebody actually personalized their outreach, if they're trying to sell to you, which of course you field sales calls clearly as a VP of Sales Development. And that is, I'm saying it right now, people, if you're listening to this and you're reaching out to Joey, you better make sure you talk about some sort of team in Minnesota, the record or something, and say, I heard it on the Modern Selling podcast. Otherwise, you're not doing your job right.
I can guarantee a reply if that happens.
I love it. Well, listen, we talked about this just a moment ago, and that was seeing your career progress from individual contributor to now the leader over the SDR team for global SDRs and BDRs. I think that's all the same in your guys' shop. So talk a little bit about how to successfully build a scalable BDR SDR team. And there's a lot of companies right now who are struggling. So talk a little bit about that. You've seen from the trenches to the leadership. How do you build it?
Yeah, I think there's several pillars, right, that go into building a successful sales development team. And that's something, as organizations are looking to do, that they should take a step back and identify what is important for their specific scenario. For us at Seismic, and for what I've built within our sales development program, and I've had leaders before me that have done such great things and then taking it over at the beginning of last year, there's really 4 pillars I find essential to building a scalable SDR program. So those 4 pillars for me would be the architecture of the team first and foremost. You brought up a really good point a second ago, where there's so many different titles, SDR, BDR, and they can have different responsibilities, right? Some are outbound focused, some are inbound focused, some are hybrid focused. And I really did see, just through how Seismic has evolved, the right model for our team in particular, given our sales process, given the customers that we sell to. So the architecture of the role itself, the outbound versus inbound, is really important. The second pillar, I would say, this is optimizing activity. This is one I'm extremely passionate in, probably one of the most challenging and debated topics in sales development in particular. And this really comes around the level of activity, the level of personalization, the volume of that activity. And so that's a really key pillar, setting the foundation, setting the expectations for your team to follow. The next one would be being omni-channel present. You heard me say this a second ago. Call, email, LinkedIn. In my mind, you have to be able to do all 3 to be a sustainable program. Every prospect is different. Every customer you sell to is different. And you need to make sure that you have all 3 of those channels at your disposal to be able to build quality pipeline. The fourth one, which is actually why I got into management in the very first place. SDRs, as many people know, is the building blocks for a sales career, or sales engineer, account management, you name it. Growth is extremely important to this field. And for me, something I'm extremely passionate about is coaching, right? So coaching your SDRs not to just be successful in their current role as a sales development rep, but also in that post-promotion closing role, wherever it may be. The most common being account executive, but we see people go SDR management, sales engineers, CSM, operations, marketing, you name it, making sure they're successful in that next role.
The 4 pillars that you mentioned to building a successful and scalable SDR BDR team: architecture, setting the foundations or expectations, being omni-channel present, which, by the way, Seismic is one of our legacy sales prospecting training companies. And Joey, you went through our training program. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
All right, good. And coaching. Those are the 4 things you mentioned. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. So let's break down each one of these elements, starting with coaching. I'm going to go backwards if that's okay with you. And the one that caught my attention was the coaching one. So I want to start there because I spent some more time on that one. And that is, I think every leader says coach. So to me, it's somewhat cliche, and everybody has a different definition. So what or how is what you're saying different than what we think of as standard coaching? Meaning I've got my weekly one-on-one with my BDR.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many aspects of coaching in the SDR's day that are important to discuss, right? You mentioned weekly one-on-ones. These are standard practice for every SDR manager and sales development rep. In my mind, though, what's really important is standardizing a framework for those one-on-ones to make sure that 30 minutes to an hour that you spend together each week, you are reviewing the key KPIs that you're pushing for, as well as setting action items that you come back to and follow as well. So when it comes to running a successful one-on-one, right, coaching them in the day-to-day during the role, there's a few things that we really highlight here at Seismic. First thing is we're going to review our sales activity, right, making sure we're putting the right volume that balances volume and personalization, right? Having the right message. There's also so many tools out there today around the account strategy. Why are you going after an account? Why are you going after a persona? When is the right time? Creating that strategy to help them effectively hit their numbers. Pipeline development is a really important one, right? Not just creating a sales opportunity, but helping further progress that deal down the funnel. And then from my mind, career development. What are the career aspirations of the SDR, and what building path are you putting together to help them learn the skills necessary?
So you've given us a framework, and which is really good. I think a lot of leaders, whether you're an SDR manager or a team lead, fail to come at the meetings and the one-on-ones with a framework. And what I love about your framework is it's 2 parts: review the key KPIs and setting actions, setting action items that you as the leader are going to manage to, which is inspect what you expect, essentially. And I think that's pretty standard, but what I heard you talk about in terms of the KPIs is the volume plus personalization. You're actually inspecting, hey, how much volume are you doing, but how much personalization are you bringing in? And then you're looking at, are we going after the right target accounts? And making sure that, hey, if your AE said go after this, but is that really the right thing to do? Or you chose to go after an account, is that really the right thing to do? Then pipeline development and career development. I want to just ask one question on pipeline development, and then I want to talk about career development in the framework there. What do you mean by pipeline development? Are your SDRs assigned a quota, or is it a pipeline development of KPIs? I made X number of calls, I made Y number of emails. Tell me how you manage them.
Yeah, so this is a great topic because it is a number one priority for us right now. So we actually have a target within their quotas for advancing the opportunities they create to a certain stage in our deal cycle. So it's not just about creating the pipeline, it's about creating quality pipeline that outside sales has a better opportunity to close. So for Seismic, we are an enterprise sales enablement software. We sell to companies from 50 employees that are just building out their sales enablement charter to the largest companies and financial service organizations in the world. And so when you move up market into those enterprise global like customers, there's so many different buying groups and stakeholders that need to be involved. You can't be single threaded, right? So it's about bringing in the different personas that we sell to: marketing, sales, enablement, RevOps, to ensure that we're being multi-threaded in who we're selling to. And then also when you're selling to these large organizations, oftentimes they have multiple different business units as well that can operate on their own, right? How can we bring them together under one decision? And so that is how we're helping develop the pipeline after creation, bringing in new stakeholders, bringing in different business units, helping to build a business case for our account executives.
So, as an example, your team, if you have a target account, I think what I hear you saying is you may be going after the revenue enablement leader, which is in the sales line of business. But what I hear you saying is one of the things that you're inspecting in the reviewing of the key KPIs is, hey, SDR, you're touching the revenue enablement and you're doing all the things, omni-channel, engaging. But wait a minute, have you even gone after the CMO? Or have you gone after, and I don't know who all the other buyers are, you've got, right, the CMO, the revenue enablement, maybe the sales leader, right? So is that what you mean by multi-threaded?
Yep, spot on there, Mario. All of those, you'll see it, and we've seen this in the industry, right? So many different influencers. I think if I remember correctly, it's 10 to 13 different stakeholders that often sign off on an enterprise deal. We need to make sure we're bringing all of them to the table, enabling sales with a multi-threaded relationship, because you never know, right? In today's world, someone could leave an organization, a project could be deprioritized, and you want to make sure you have multiple relationships that you can utilize to progress.
Got it. All right, let's touch on the career development path. Usually the BDR, SDR organization is a stepping stone to either management, your path that you've taken in leading a global BDR team, or into sales account management or as an account executive. But what I find is that a lot of organizations have these reps sitting there for 2, 3, even 4 years in the role. And I also find that the managers are oftentimes not skilled enough to help them develop the actual selling skills, meaning an SDR manager, they go that track because they became a great SDR. Then all of a sudden there was an opportunity that came up and they're certainly qualified to lead a team. So they lead a team, but they've never been an account executive. So how do you actually start bridging the career development process of getting them to close deals or have the first conversation? Like, how do you actually lead your first call that you have and move it all the way through to close? Like, how do you do that so that you can be an effective AE when you're ready to take that plunge, if you go that path?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's something that I was extremely passionate about Seismic, right? We have an SDR team that so many of them are aspiring account executives. And one of the challenges you often see in the industry, right? You can have a really good SDR, but that doesn't always translate to being a really good AM or a really good AE, because there's certain skills you don't get the opportunity to run in the role. So last year, our executive team signed off. We created a new velocity program, is what we call it. So we give 20% of our top performing SDRs the opportunity to run inbound source deals in conjunction with still holding their full outbound SDR number. So what that's showcasing to the business, right, is the ability for the SDR to not only build an outbound number, but also start to showcase the closing skills in an AE role to demonstrate their readiness. And it's something that has been a wild success story for Seismic and for several of the SDRs within our team right now, who have had the opportunity to close 3, 4, 5 deals in some cases already in just 8 months.
Okay, so you actually have them running small deals to get their feet wet. top 20%. So the top 20% theoretically would be the pool of applicants that would apply for an open AE or AM or any other type of role that they may want to go after.
Correct. Absolutely. And then what my directors do a really good job of doing with this velocity program, as we call it, is running, weekly call reviews around foundational skills, discovery, product demonstration, selling to the C-suite, things that are able to help them to progress in the role and be ready for those deals. And then as well, it's a partnership with our commercial sales team. So we have 4 commercial RVPs that have been amazing to work with, that have, a refined skill and have developed previous SDRs and AEs that partner with these SDRs as well to help provide some of the development while in the SDR role.
So as an example, one of the RVPs or a manager from that team might join a pipeline review call and begin to offer up coaching as if they were one of their own, something like that. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. Yep. That's spot.
And that's a really great model, because what happens there is now you get visibility to these other leaders in the organization on not only you're a top performing SDR, but you're actually working on closing, you're taking coaching, and they want to see, are you coachable? That's one of the big questions we ask. Or if you're ready for sales, are you coachable, right? And then did you close it, and do you have the propensity to scale those efforts? And it gets you the visibility. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges in a SDR, BDR role. Sometimes we hear about it being just a churn, right? Real high churn, and it's a grind. And I'm going to say, because obviously we teach sales prospecting, the hardest job in any company, hands down. I don't care who you are. I'll say it to your face. The Fortune 1 CEO, I'll tell you, your job is not the hardest. It's the person that's booking the first meeting is the hardest. That's our SDRs. And with that in mind, sometimes, though, you just don't get the visibility because you're kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. And until you get the big, meeting that somebody was been waiting for, and then you get a hoorah, and everybody forgets about you, and eventually they go on to close the deal, and the sales rep gets all the accolades. So this is a great model I love, because it's basically saying, hey, you 80%, you got to aspire to be the 20%. The 20%, you get the opportunity, if you want it, to be able to start developing these skills while still in this role. And we're going to get you exposure to other parts of the organization. At the same time, we're going to develop the skills on closing, which would be the theoretical path from SDR to AE to, and you continue it on. That's kind of the impetus of this whole entire program, and it's called the Velocity Program. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
So on average, how long does someone sit in an SDR role in your organization?
So on average right now, for Seismic, we're right around that 24-month benchmark is what we're seeing.
Wow. Okay. So all of those SDRs that are sitting in a role for 12 months, that are getting real anxious and then start looking for another job because they're not getting promoted, your advice to them is sit back, learn the role, fill in the blank. What else?
Absolutely. I think what's really important in the sales development role, right, is I think burnout is a really interesting term. The reason for that is oftentimes SDRs know the expectations of the role, but where burnout I see happens is when they're not learning, right? When there's no more progression in the role. And that's where I think you start to see SDRs maybe start to look elsewhere, or really try to identify what is the path that they want to go down. And I think that's what this Velocity program has enabled our organization to do. We sell 4 different products, right? So when SDRs come in, by the time they're able to onboard, effectively learn the 3 channels of outreach, effectively learn how to run a discovery call, usually we start to see that happen around the 1-year mark. And that's when they can, based on performance, qualify for the Velocity program. Then there's an interview process for moving into the program itself. And so usually at the 12-month mark is where we see SDRs start to begin that qualification process. and then it's refining those discovery and demonstration skills. And the way that we do it here, it's in both one-on-ones with your manager or sometimes even with me, or in team trainings to be able to allow the SDRs to see their skill set compared to others. And one of my favorite exercises that I recommend for any sales development organization, in the team trainings, the SDR should be part of the feedback. And one thing we always do here, it's one thing that you did well in one area to improve. And that allows you, even for the SDRs who are not participating in the discovery or demo, to see how they're thinking about the call, right? To see their feedback and be able to analyze, here are the areas that you can listen for in your calls to improve as well. So those are a few of the just kind of strategies we run for the program to, again, help with the development. And, you know, in that 12 to 24 month time is where we see people start to take that leap to be ready to run a deal cycle.
I love it, Joey. That's really good. And I love the way you're grooming and coaching, and you recognize that you've got a 18 to 24 month long cycle with each of these folks in their role, which does not translate, however. I just want to point out, and I think a lot of sales reps, I see this a lot, which is people changing jobs every 12 to 15, maybe 20 months. Once you're an AE, you need to sit there for a solid 4 years, in my opinion, because it's going to take you a full year to be able to really understand your territory. And then it's going to take you another year to be able to hit that 100%. And then it's going to take you another year on top of that to be able to explode that 100%. And then at that point, year 4, that's your gravy train right there, right? You're going to keep on doing the exact same thing. And that's where you're going to start getting antsy at. So year 3, maybe year 4. And I think a lot of us, especially when I was growing up, you sat in a role for 5-10 years and you'd be happy that you're sitting in that role, right? I mean, that was the way we did it. But 3 to 4 years, you got to be thinking about, your career and managing it. And too many reps, BDR or AE, too many are switching way too early, and they're ruining their opportunities to drive success for themselves. Now, maybe you made a mistake. Maybe it was a bad company. Sure, you get out of jail free card once. But 2, 3, or 4 times changing jobs every 12 months? No, I think we need to reset that, which you brought up something which is very interesting. And this is a lot that is on an SDR. And I don't think our sales teams give enough love to the BDR team. Productivity is a huge key to success as an SDR. One of the reasons why we developed Fly Message was all around productivity, saving people time because of how many things are being constricted. And let's just take LinkedIn alone. If I've got a target of 50 prospects that I'm going after, and all 50 of them happen to be active on social media, in order for me to actually thoughtfully engage with that individual, I'm going to spend anywhere between 6 to 12 minutes per post per customer. And that could end up getting me anywhere between 6 to 12 hours worth of actual time. So that's tough in terms of productivity. So talk a little bit about how productivity, or do you think productivity is key to success? And how do you help reps optimize their time with so many things hitting them in so many different directions?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point, Mario. I think that translation from even LinkedIn goes to email, right? The amount of time that goes into an email one on average can be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. And I once saw this study. I was trying to find it previously, and there was a bell curve that showed basically a kind of inverse effect if you spend too long on an email one, for instance, because it does not guarantee if you spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour customizing it, that the prospect even opens it in the first place, right? So it's about optimizing your time during the day. And so for us, we have expectations that we've put in place for our SDR team each and every day with the technology we have available to them around those 3 channels: email, call, LinkedIn. And so on average, our SDRs are doing anywhere from 12 to 15 net new emails per day. They're making 80 to 100 dials per day. And then within each of our cadences as well, we have 1 to 2 LinkedIn steps, which typically will evolve around engagement, like you mentioned, with a post or a LinkedIn voice note or video if they are connected with that person on LinkedIn. And so for me, it all comes down to time management, right? These three channels, in my mind, the way that I frame them to my team each and every day are called effort metrics. No matter what's happening in the business, no matter what's happening in the world, those are three controllables that they have 100% control over, right? So when you think through a average email, one's going to take around 10 minutes on average. Some might be longer, some might be shorter. What I try to have our team do is 1 hour of block on their calendar for email ones in the morning, and then 1 hour for afternoon. Same thing with calls, so they can make those 40 to 50 dials. So right there, you have 4 hours in your day, a 1 hour call blitz in the morning, a 1 hour email block, and then the same thing in the afternoon. That leaves you with another at least 4 hours for internal meetings, external meetings, and prospecting as well. And so that's how we structure our day to be able to optimize our time, making sure we get to those activities, because the consistency of doing those Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, when you do them at a high level with the right personalization, that's when we see the SDRs really stand out on the leaderboard.
Gotcha. So I'm curious, side note, your engagement was the LinkedIn voicemail that you mentioned on LinkedIn specifically, and a post. What about commenting? What about engaging through commenting? Is that part of the process as well?
Yep. We encourage our SDRs to do it. It's, in today's world, harder to monitor because there's no tool that can help you track, at least not to my knowledge, the number of posts that they may comment on. But you bring up a very good point there. For those that are looking to stand out on LinkedIn, in my mind, LinkedIn is unique to email and cold calling. The strategy that you run on LinkedIn has to be different. And you bring up a great point there, Mario, where engaging on someone's post is an excellent way to stand out. Now, the key is it cannot be a simple, great post, thanks for sharing, right? That's not anything that's personalized to the article or personalized to the post. What I really recommend is taking time to think through what that post was about, what were your takeaways, and how may it impact your day, or how may it impact your team, depending on what the post is about.
I can't call this new product that you just gave me, this idea, Fly Joey, but I can attribute it to Joey Vendel. And I have been sitting here, total side note, bro, I have been sitting here thinking about new product, new technology, and some of the things that are needed by the sales organizations. And you just gave me something that we could totally easily build into Fly Engage. As you know, we have Fly Engage. It's a product feature underneath Fly Message, and it uses AI to be able to read the LinkedIn post, writes a response back. It literally is programmed with Mario's brain over 7 years of social selling and digital sales training, and you literally have Mario right next to you helping you write comments, right? You just said something that now becomes my next product enhancement to Fly Engage, and that is tracking which post you commented on and reporting on those posts. Now, I can't tell you if they actually hit the button post, but I can tell you which ones did you actually use the AI to write a comment on, and I can report on that, and I can put that into a reporting portal. I'm going to call it Fly Joey as our internal name, bro.
There you go. That's the secret right there. That's been the challenge for sales development leaders like myself. Even with sales engagement tools, you can build a LinkedIn step into the Cadence, but there's no tracking back to things around engaging, liking, LinkedIn messages. And so it's a little bit of a dark world when it comes to that.
So just as a side note, there are actually a couple tools that will synchronize your LinkedIn messaging and LinkedIn Sales Navigator messaging back to Salesforce. LinkedIn, of course, wants to have it all locked down because they want to be able to get you to the big, kahuna enterprise plan. But there's actually a tool out there called Surfy, S-U-R-F-E. And Surfy, I have no affiliation, by the way, and they're going to love me for putting in this plug. But 85% of all messages actually do not happen on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. People track them on their LinkedIn profile. And so you could actually select a specific message amongst a whole entire chain to synchronize back to Salesforce or HubSpot, or you fill in the blank. They've got it in Microsoft Dynamics, and it works really, really well. So that's actually a tool. But the commenting, liking, and posting, we've built that tool already with Fly Post AI and Fly Engage. And of course, as you know, we are very heavy centric inside of the SDR, BDR world for this feature set. And I think we can build that pretty easily because, by the way, I'm passing to the back end the entire post and the link of the post anyways. So I could easily track this on a reporting. I can tell you exactly how many comments somebody wrote, but I'm not currently telling you which one they wrote it on, and so that you can actually see the post. So it's coming into the pipeline. I just wrote it down in my notes here. Track which post you commented on and report on that! ! What an idea! ... Fly Joey.
There you go. There we go.
There you go, man. So appreciate you mentioning that. I think one of the big challenges that we see, and of course I'm talking about LinkedIn, but if you think about this omni-channel present that you talked about, I'm assuming omni-channel present is you got to touch the phone, you got to touch the email, and you got to touch a social channel. There could be other things. Gift marketing could be there. Text messaging could be another one, as in terms of omni-channel. Videos, right? Any one of those things. Just to confirm, when you say omni-channel present, you're talking about those types of activities, correct?
Yes, everything. And the reason I say that as well, Mario, is because every prospect is different, and you have to be able to meet them where they want to be met. So I know some people that they will only respond via email. They do not pick up random numbers on their phone because of the amount of robocalls people have nowadays, right? I know some that I can see them they just delete their email. The minute it comes in, there's no way they even had a chance to read the subject line. They just start cleaning out their inbox. Other people I know only respond to salespeople on LinkedIn. And so you see 3 different people right there, where if you focus on only one channel, but you're not mastering, for instance, your email framework or your cold call pitch or your LinkedIn selling, then you're going to miss out on potential prospects and potential revenue for your business. So we're using those 3 channels. We're using a gifting service as well for those, what we call our special prospects, the ones that are very important to a deal cycle that can help us progress. So we use all of those different channels in our day to be able to generate high quality pipeline.
What about texting? Do you encourage SDRs to go ahead and text? And at what point in the cadence is a text allowed?
Absolutely. Texting is one that once we have engaged with the prospect, that is where I believe you have established a relationship. And so we do a lot of our meeting confirmations via text message because everyone has their phone next to them. They see all their text messages, and it's a great way to just remind them of that upcoming meeting to ensure and drive your show rate. And so, yes, I absolutely think text message is a good one. The only thing I will say there, Mario, have a established relationship, whether you've traded an email, you've talked on the phone before. That's where I think you've opened the door to texting. I still believe it's a bit more personal, but if you have that established relationship, it's absolutely a good channel if you use it appropriately. That is not one that I recommend following up with 5, 6, 7 times like you might see with a sales engagement tool.
Yeah, interesting. Now, this could be different, though, than if someone's on inbound. And the inbound side, if someone has raised their hand and sent their phone number and their email, right? One of the tell me if you agree with this. One of the things that we do very specifically is I'm going to make a phone call, and then after that phone call I'm going to send a text saying, "Hey Joey, I just want to let you know that was me that left you the voicemail. I know I don't answer caller IDs that I don't recognize, so I wanted you to know who this is." And then I will send a LinkedIn connection request saying, "Hey Joey, thanks so much for reaching out. By the way, I did leave you a voicemail and a text today. Just wanted you to know that so you can have a face to the name." And that's how I connect all 3. And what I'm looking for is, am I going to get a phone call back? Am I going to get a text back? Or am I going to get a LinkedIn connection request so I can see which channel they want to engage with me on? What do you think about that strategy?
For my SDRs listening right now, that's an elite strategy. That is one I would 100% recommend. I think that's fully thought through, especially how you're using voicemail, text, and LinkedIn all together. I'm a huge data person, Mario. And that's something to me that if you can identify the channel that works best through those three, use that to your advantage.
Gotcha. Now, on the outbound side, to your point, that is a sensitive one. In fact, we have an article on prospecting. If you just typed in prospecting into Google, you'll find our article. It's one of the top articles. But if you just type in prospecting on our blog and you'll find this. It's our largest one. And you'll see that we have a sample outbound sales cadence. The number that I heard was 15 to 18 touch points before you get a response from a buyer. Pre-COVID, it used to be 8 to 12. Now, post-COVID, 15 to 18 touch points. So, I'm sorry, 12 to 15 touch points. Excuse me. That's the number I had. All right. The point is that on the outbound side, we actually do have text messaging inside there if we have a mobile number, but it isn't until step 13, day 20. And we specifically do that because at that point, we would have opened it up with either referral quest, done some social engagement, and we would have done a phone call, an email, a video message, a connection request, more social engagement. And then eventually you're going to get to the point where I'm going to say, hey, Joey, by the way, you may not know it's me when I'm calling, but I wanted you to know that this is Mario Martinez. I'm the same guy who also sent you a LinkedIn connection request, so you have a face to the name. And that way it allows you to be able to introduce it, but later on into the process, because they may have been seeing you come through, but they're not sure, like who is this guy or gal in terms of that. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of texting?
I think that can work. I think the only part I would maybe call out there is if you're leaving voicemails, they likely have heard your voicemail at that point. So I think it can work if it's later on. I think the key, Mario, is bringing value, right? That every touch point needs some form of value. And I think that's why we've seen the rise of how many touch points it takes to get a hold of a prospect, is because more and more of it has become this more mass message versus a personalized, relevant message for that specific person. If you can do that, I think each of those channels we've talked about, email, call, LinkedIn, voicemail, text message, all work. Value is the important part.
Love it. We have our PBC sales methodology, personalization, bring value, which is something of value to the buyer and how to solve one of their problems. Could be a blog, a white paper, an ebook, a webinar, an event, something like that, and then have that call to action. I do want to give one other item that I would love to hear your feedback on, and it's what I think is one of the most missed elite touch points, elite sales prospecting touch points, and it's the follow button on LinkedIn. It's not the save button and navigator, the follow button on LinkedIn. So we actually have this in our outbound cadence as step number 3 before making a phone call. So let me tell you what I mean by this. Many people say, hey, my buyer is not active on LinkedIn, and therefore that's not a channel they're not engaged on, which may or may not be true, but they could be the surfer. We don't know that. They could be the guy or the gal sitting on the toilet, scrolling through their newsfeed while they're on the toilet. Sorry, I'm going to say, because we all do it. Or maybe most of us do it. I don't know. But that, all my listeners, by the way, 7 years, you're hopefully all laughing at me now because I've said that so many a times. But so with that in mind, the follow on LinkedIn, Joey, that actually, if someone is not active or not demonstrating that they're active, maybe they're just a passive engager, when you click the follow button, within 24 hours, first off, they get a notification that someone followed them. Within 24 hours, most people have their settings set up so they get an alert when something has happened on LinkedIn, or at least a weekly roll-up. You will get a dedicated email that is sent by LinkedIn that Mario Martinez has followed you. And interestingly enough, it shows your picture, your headline, and it shows that you follow. Now, the deliverability rate of an @linkedin.com email over a vengreso.com email or a seismic.com email, the deliverability rate of @linkedin.com is 100% deliverability rate. No spam filter blocks @linkedin.com. 0 It's 100% deliverability. And wouldn't it be nice to have your face show up in their email box from LinkedIn that you were followed? That's a touch point. And what happens is the buyer then clicks on that notification. They look at your profile, and that is what we call a trigger event, where they've come back to your profile. And if you've got Navigator or Premium, you'll be able to see who's viewed my profile, and we include that daily. Thoughts?
I love that. And the reason I love that as well, Mario, one of the most fun parts of my career journey has been being an SDR, studying these practices, doing these practices day in and day out, and then moving into management, director, VP, and now starting to get to see the other side, right? Now there's SDRs reaching out to me, and I get the opportunity to evaluate their message, their pitch, and be able to see what are the things that I really like that I can bring back to my team. And speaking of the LinkedIn follow, I can tell you right now, I've had probably in the last 12 months, 2 people do it. And I remember exactly when they did that as well. So it's a differentiator. And I think in today's market, how can you break through the noise is such an important aspect. And so for the AEs and SDRs listening, 100%, there are very few people that are using the follow button, and it is a way to get your face in front of your prospects.
Amen to that. And by the way, in our sales cadence, believe it or not, step 18 in our outbound is unfollow and unsave. You don't know how many times, and by the way, no one gets a notification that you unfollowed them. I wish that would be interesting. That would be like a notification. You just got unfollowed, right? But a lot of folks, we forget to do that. And what ends up happening is we have pollution in our Sales Navigator account, and we end up having like 600 or 1,000 sales leads saved inside of Sales Navigator. And I don't know about you, but that's single-handedly my biggest gripe about Navigator is I can't mass unsave something inside of a list. It's like one by one by one by one by one, and it's a mother load. And it took me basically one Saturday to go clean up my Sales Navigator, especially because as reps sent me their lists, I had a lot of lists and the people I was saving that I didn't want to have saved. But that is one step. So I'd encourage you, make sure you keep yourself clean, because to your point, Joey, productivity is key. Yeah.
We think alike, Mario. I did the same thing one day where I felt my feed was a little bit diluted. And so I went through that process of unfollowing a few. So I recommend that as well, because you want to make sure as well for your LinkedIn feed that it's, the posts that are relevant to you and relevant to your market. And yes, I think that's a great practice.
3 more questions I've got for you on the topic of prospecting. Successful reps and their cadence versus bottom performing reps in their cadence. What does a successful rep leverage in their cadence versus a bottom performing rep? I think I know the answer, but spell it out.
Yeah, to me, and this is really where we take our email framework at Seismic, and it's relevant to your cold call pitch, and I'll kind of translate the two here in a second. But to me, it's all around having a framework that brings value to the prospect. So for us, we follow a 4-sentence approach. The first line in an email is a personalization. So why are you reaching out to this person in particular in the first place? Catch their attention. The second line is what we call the hook. What we lead with at Seismic is a problem statement. The reason we do that is because problems create urgency. That's where we see people take action faster, because they want to remove that pain from their day-to-day. The third line is then how we solve that problem and what outcome does it relate to? What value is it going to bring to the prospect? And then an interest-based call to action. So we follow that framework within all of our emails because we want our emails to act as standalone. We do have them as part of a thread, but we don't always want to trust that the buyer is going to scroll, because I am a big fan of polling people within our organization to identify if they ever do that under any circumstance. And most of the time I get the answer no, actually. So that is our framework that we're using, and our top performing reps are consistent with that motion. They're following that practice. They're concise with their message, right? They're not letting it become too lengthy. In every touch point is a blend of personalization and relevance. Now, we translate that, Mario, over to our cold calls, which is a very big channel for us at Seismic as well. What we're leading with is a problem proposition, right? We want to, in the first 20 seconds, show the buyer we know them and we know the pains that they're experiencing to essentially get permission to carry the conversation on. So our top reps, in my mind, to simplify, are leading with problem and then selling the value of how we solve that problem.
Bro, you just described our PVC sales methodology. We're so freaking aligned. Personalization to the buyer persona, state the pain, bring value into the discussion by bringing something of content, and then have a call to action for that individual. And then my famous line, show them that you know them. For God's sake, show them that you know them and bring in that personalization. I think it's super critical and super helpful. I've loved this conversation, and I'm glad we're so aligned in terms of just our thinking and the process. And you've done a great job with the success at Seismic and bringing together the SDR, BDR teams. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, one thing that's unique about your team is that you actually consolidated inbound and outbound together under the same team, correct?
We did. About 8 months ago. We were taking a look at our strategy, our alignment with marketing, and we saw an opportunity to partner really closely with our marketing team. And when we looked at our sales motion, we used to have inbound and outbound separate. However, within our named accounts, we made it a hybrid model. The reason we did that, Mario, was actually to have our outbound SDRs partner closer with the marketing team on the campaigns that they're generating, the engagement they're generating. But then the outbound SDRs, they know the prospects in and out. They know the account. They know the challenges. They know the history. They have the partnership with the AE. And so we made that change as a way to elevate our MQL to demo conversion rates, which has made a really big impact. And I know our marketing team loves this as well. We've had our closest relationship we've had with marketing in the history at Seismic. And I think to us, that's a very important motion to have your marketing team at the top of the funnel through your SDRs building pipeline to the account executives, helping them to progress those deals. And so we made that change from a inbound outbound split to a hybrid model. Now, I will say I do still see the need for the inbound role in those faster, more transactional sales. And we still do have that at Seismic. We have an inbound motion for our commercial segment, but in our larger enterprise and named accounts, that hybrid model is something we've seen a ton of success with.
And a byproduct of that, from what I understand from leaders who've done the same thing, is you actually give a mix. I mean, look, unless you've got an amazing marketing organization, no marketing organization is producing 100% of your leads. So that having been said, it allows the SDR to actually have some live conversations, get some live fish on a hook, on a daily basis, or at least a couple times a week, because the outbound function, that takes time, 30 days, right, to potentially get somebody's attention. And if you're doing that, a day in, day out, not talking to anybody, that's pretty hard on the soul. So I love the way you've combined it, built a stronger partnership, and specifically allows reps to be able to get some live fish that they can actually spend some time talking to and communicating with. Man, this has been a great conversation. We got to close. I went way over my time for all of you listening, but you can see I'm passionate about prospecting, and I love the conversation with my boy Joey here. Joey, what's the best way if someone wants to get a hold of you? Is it through LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? You tell us.
Yeah, I'd say the best way, LinkedIn, email are really good options. For me, personalized outreach is what I've coached, what I preach every single day. I have a rule of thumb. If you personalize your outreach to me, you show that you did research about me, about what my role is, I will get back to you, whether it's, if it's something that we're willing to explore or if it's something that we have right now that there's no need, but I will get back to you. It's something that for me, is I'm extremely passionate about. I coach it every single day. When the reps take the right actions, I want to reward those things.
Love it. And for those of you that want to reach out to Joey on LinkedIn, it's Joey, Joey, Vendel, Vendel. And make sure that you tell him that you heard him on the Modern Selling podcast. Make sure you say that. And oh, by the way, I got one final question for you, bro. And that is your all-time favorite movie.
I'm laughing because I ask this to all my SDRs when they start, because I'm hoping one day someone says it. My all-time favorite movie is Crazy Stupid Love. The scene in the backyard, for those that have seen it, when everything comes all together, is an all-time scene. There's so many one-liners from the movie, and one day we are going to hire an SDR at Seismic that hopefully says it because it is their favorite movie and not just because they heard this podcast.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I haven't had that movie on the show. I thought you were going to say mine. And I was like, what's he going to say? What's he going to say? But that having been said, that's the first time we've had it. So all of you listening in, hey, put your subject line to Joey, Crazy Stupid Love, and put that into the subject line, and that will get his attention there. And if you're looking for a job as an SDR, tell him tell him the movie that you heard here.
That'll be +1.
That would be +1. Hey, all of you listening in right now, don't turn that down quite yet. Listen to this important message right now. Thanks for listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Please do me a huge favor and give the Modern Selling Podcast a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like to save 20 hours or more in a month and increase your productivity, go right now and download Fly Message, that's flymsg.io, for free. It's your free text expander and personal writing assistant. Hey, thanks for listening in, and until the next episode, good selling.